reading. So we start off the week with Day of the Dead or Dia de los Muertos celebrations all over Mexico and Central and South America. There are different traditions. It's going to look different for every culture. So, anyway, and you guys can adapt the tradition as well because Halloween is specifically for creating that connection to the spirit world. And however that looks like for you, it's perfectly fine. But this energy is usually for our ancestors. So, or our crossed over loved ones. So today, that's how it feels. The veil's still thin. There's still a sense of kind of like memories coming in. So maybe you might have dreams of your passed over loved ones. Maybe you'll have messages in dreams or possibly connection, such as in consciousness, like when you're awake. There might be little reminders today of those loved ones, such as their favorite song playing on the radio, or even their scent, like what it is that they usually wore, or whenever you went to visit them in their house, the scents that you would smell, such as like with my grandma, all I could smell is beans, of course, cooking in the kitchen, and then fresh tortillas and queso fresco. She always had a pot of beans, no matter who or what. She always had food for you. Um, and then another thing would be like her herbs. She never allowed anybody in her room, of course. I was like the only one that was allowed once in there. But she had like fresh herbs hanging and drying, and then of course little salves that she will create herself for her pain. She had arthritis and swelling, so she would create those salves and stuff. So she would smell like that as well. And then, and then of course, if you guys had a grandma like me that loved telenovelas, which is soap operas, she always had at least, that on. That was like her favorite thing to watch. But anyway, so you'll have little memories like that coming up today and tomorrow. Little things that remind you of that person. And so when you see these things, these are little messages from them saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm here. I'm protecting you. I'm watching over you." And things like that. So anyway, I always recommend people to make a little altar or a little ofrenda for your relatives, especially around this time, even throughout the year. I always have something with my grandma in mind on my actual altar. So this is my altar space. This is for her and my uncles. And then, of course, in the middle, I have my own sage and smudge plates like this right there, and then my plants, and then my own offerings over here on the side as well for my deities and for the little people or the fae, how we call them. So anyway, let's get to the readings. So let's see who wants to go first. Sorry, I dropped you guys. Let's see who wants to go first. Sorry. Hopefully you guys didn't get hurt. I just dropped you guys. Okay, so who wants to go first for the readings for the zodiac signs? You just throw out a zodiac sign and we'll do yours first. Okay, good morning, guys. Yeah, rose con queso fresco, exactly. Yep. Okay, Scorpio it is. So So Shannon says she put jelly beans and cigarettes out for her grandma and the beer for her grandpa. Oh yeah. Yeah, my uncle, he died of leukemia right after my grandma died of dementia, Alzheimer's. So it was like the same year, so it was kind of crazy. So I just got back from the Air Force from serving. I was told while I was in England that she wasn't doing so good, that she had a lot of memory loss and such things. And so when I went to visit, she did kind of remember me because she did make my favorite dish, which is Uh, she made me some, what was it? She made me some champurrado. And it's like the dead of summer, you guys. This is how my grandma was down for anything. She didn't care. So she made me some champurrado, and then she made me some pozole de res, because that's my favorite. It's red pozole instead of using pork, because I don't like pork meat or whatever. They use beef, right? Beef tips and stuff. So she did that for me during the dead heat of summer in California, and I was so grateful. So she made that, and she started to kind of like, you can notice that she wasn't remembering much, like things. Like she kind of started like, for a while she kind of stared at me for a little bit, and then she's like, kind of like, oh, now I remember, And then, so that like was within a year that actually went from that confusion to really, really like completely not knowing anybody. So within that year, so I visited on my way to England. So I went there after I left Korea. I went there to visit her, and she did all that for me. And then I was on my way to England. And then a few months after, like when I decided to leave the Air Force, then I went home. That's when she was progressively worse. And so she lost a lot of weight. She wasn't eating. She wasn't able to toilet herself on her own, and things like that. But she did have help, of course, with my uncles and aunts there. They helped her out. But anyway, she was just like, it was like kind of like no one, like she didn't recognize anyone. She looked at me and she thought I was one of her cousins or something like that. And she was kind of whispering to me like, "Oh, I'm gonna go see so and so again," or whatever. I think she was talking about whoever she was dating as a teenager or something, because she was giggling. And I was like, "Oh, really?" Like just going along with it. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go visit him tonight, so don't tell anyone." And I was like, "Okay." Whatever. And so she was like pretty happy about it, but I just went along with it. And anyway, that's how it happened. And then, of course, later on that year, she passed, after she lost even more weight. I think she was about 98 pounds when she passed. That was like definitely dementia, where she was fighting people she didn't know because she's so scared of whomever was around. She was like completely, us as her family were complete strangers to her in her mind. So she was very aggressive, fighting us and stuff. So anyway, she passed, and then the same year we found out that my uncle, the one that's pictured in the picture with her, had leukemia. We did not know that he had leukemia. He more or less would go to the doctor, and they would do blood work, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. But he was always sick. Like he couldn't hold down food and things like that. And I remember he used to be like the funniest uncle ever. Like he would just joke around and want, things like that with everyone. Always in like high hopes. Every time you saw him, you never saw him sad. You never saw him angry. He was always super happy. And he would have like a beer here and there, but he didn't like beer. So when you said beer, he's like the only one that did like beer. He actually like strong alcohol. But anyway, he's a hard worker. He provided for his family, and then he got really sick for all of a sudden, and no one could figure it out. And then finally, I think it was the last few months of his life, he finally got hospitalized because it was just so bad that he couldn't even move. And so he finally got hospitalized. They finally sent him to a actual, oncologist, because they thought, oh my God, this has to be some type of cancer. So they got him to an oncologist, and they finally figured out that he had leukemia. And but I would say he had like a few bone marrow transplants as well. Like my uncle volunteered, his older brother volunteered himself to do a donation of bone marrow. So that's kind of painful if you guys don't know how that works. Oh my God, it's like the worst thing you could do. But it's, of course, it's like really helpful for whomever has, leukemia and stuff. But it's like the worst thing because they don't give you anesthesia or anything. They just extract it with a huge freaking needle on your hip or wherever you have a high majority is usually on the hip. So my uncle had to go in and get that extracted, and was able to provide it for my uncle. But unfortunately, the leukemia was so advanced that it didn't help at all. And he died like a month after. And so anyway, so it's just like one funeral after the other, the same year. So it was kind of crazy that that happened. But it's funny because like when I look at their zodiac signs, my grandmother was an Aries and then my uncle was a Virgo. And so I always see how good they were together, like as like uh mother and son or stuff like that, their combination of energies and stuff, and how uplifting they both were, how they never really created stress, in the family, unlike other relatives, of course. And so they always like were hard workers and did everything that they could for the family. It gave a lot of themselves to us, and so that they could provide us with information of our ancestry as well as comfort. And that's how they were. And so, and they still do that, of course, because they're spirits now. There are spirit guides. And so that's what I wanted to say, you guys, that everybody's out there who is missing a loved one or who wants to connect. You guys are always connected. Okay. Just, you got to be open to receive the connection, of course. So let's see. Okay. So let's go ahead and start with Scorpio. Let's see what we got for Scorpio for this week. Energy. Let's see. Connecting to all the Scorpios of the collective consciousness. Oh, how proper. The Rainmaker. All right, so the Rainmaker is the spirit of the rain, Yuvia. To me, it is purifying. Okay, so anything that, because when we think about rain, what does it does? What does it do to the planet itself? It purifies the atmosphere, right? It brings in nutrients from above in order, kind of like it disperses the nutrients coming from lakes because that's where it builds up from, right? Where we get all of this stuff coming in from the lakes, from the rivers, from the ocean, creating storm clouds in the atmosphere. And from there, it rains down and purifies the atmosphere itself, coming back into the earth, bringing back those nutrients onto the tierra, onto the ground, proper nutrients that are necessary for the plant life to grow and such things, right? So that's what I feel. This is a purification energy. This is a cleansing energy for Scorpio. So this week, that's the theme for you guys, is cleansing and purifying of your own energies. And however that looks like, more than anything, you know, a lot of people believe, Scorpio season is only about shadow work, but it's not. And a lot of people interpret shadow work as having to be this crazy roller coaster of emotions or depression and dark night of the soul and such things like that, but it really isn't. Shadow work is things that you're already doing at this time, that you might not even be aware of, right? So like, for example, when you have a memory of the past that is coming up for revision or review, maybe it's an uncomfortable memory, but as soon as comes up, you are able to analyze it, or you're able to review it and say, okay, I learned the lesson there, and now I'm able to understand why that happened. And now I'm able to see that lesson play out in my life and catch it before it progresses, or catch it before I react to it in the same way that I did in the past. And that's shadow work. It doesn't have to be you torturing yourself. right? You having to throw up your arms and just be like, ah, you know. It's the different degrees of shadow work that exists within the person. It's a different interpretation per person as well. So if you are a person who sees these things and is like, okay, a little bit more reserved, then that's, you're doing your shadow work. You don't have to like break down and cry all the time, right? You don't have to be depressed all the time. If you are a person that interprets it as depression or breaking down, things like that, then that's perfectly fine for you. It works for you. But like I said, for me, I think Scorpio, there's going to be 2 degrees of it, where there's just going to be one interpretation over another, and you don't have to feel guilt, or you don't have to tell yourself you're not doing the shadow work the way that you're supposed to if it doesn't come up the same way that another reaction came up as, right, prior to this reaction, or this connection, or this item that came up, right? So shadow work is based on how the soul interprets it at that time, the reaction that it takes within itself from what it is that you're being asked to review. Okay. And then, so there's going to be a lot of contemplation, and there's going to be a lot of purification. Okay. And like I said, purification through the rainmaker energy is about water energy, is about working with water energy. So maybe purifying your hands, like maybe you're like, you're when you see a situation and you're like, okay, I wash myself from that situation. You can do that, like that, where you wash your actual hands, as you're thinking of it, and just immerging yourself in the water purification through like the water faucet, and just knowing that that water is removing that energy from you. Okay. So for me, for example, what I like to do in the shower as soon as I get in is I say to myself, water purifies my body and mind. Water takes away my problems and my worries of the day, right? That's what I like to do. And then you could do that too, or you could say, I wash myself from this situation, right? And purifying your energy in that way too. But it's going to be running water, and it's going to be water coming up from above, like in like vertically, pretty much. That's what you should work with, vertical energy coming in from water. Okay. So showering, you could pretend that that's actually rainwater, because it's water, right? Or you could just do the washing of your hands too. Okay. So that's what I want. That's the message I want to give to Scorpio. Okay. So, yes, exactly. My new term is shadow tune gratitude. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't have to be, like I said, you're like defeated completely, or things like that. Because I know there's a lot of people out there that tell you you're not doing your shadow work, you're not judgmental much, right? Just don't listen. Like I always tell people, it's like, be mindful of who you watch. If they're telling you you're doing something wrong, or you're not doing it correctly because that's based on their own interpretation of it, remember that it's an interpretation. Okay. Spirit work, everything going on is an interpretation of what we think should be reflected, or what we think should be, right? No one is correct, you guys. Absolutely no one is correct. It works for you, then it works perfectly for you, right? And so that's why I always tell people, like, don't listen to people who are telling you you're doing it wrong, because they're the ones doing it wrong. Why? Because they're the ones telling you to do it in a certain way, and if you don't do it their way, then you're wrong, which is ego. Okay, so remember that. All right, so anyway, let's move on to the next zodiac. So we're gonna do Libra next. Okay, Libra, let's see. Let's shuffle for Libra. And again, spirit work, everything to do with spirituality is interpreted by the self. Even the definition of certain things is interpreted by the self, by the connection of you with the item, you with the person, you with the spirit realm. There is nothing there's no one out there who knows entirely that that's the fact, or whatever, because there's no such things as facts with the spirit world. Okay, no, that does not exist, as the ego does not exist in the spirit realm. Therefore, when it's a fact, that's ego. Okay, which exists here in the 3D. Okay, all right, so let's see. Libra. Let's see, Libra. Ooh, the moon. So moon cycles for Libra. Watching the moon cycles, Libra. Working with the moon cycles, understanding the divine feminine, okay? Through all aspects of the divine feminine. When we think about the moon cycles, we represent the divine feminine in all of her aspects, right? So from the I would say from the crescent moon, from the actual full moon to the waning moon, you have different lifespans of the divine feminine, the maiden, the mother, and the crone, right? Even in between, if there isn't that mother, physical mother energy, it'll be mothering or nurturing of the self, okay? So the waning and the waxing moon, for example, would be something powerful for you to really concentrate on, Libra, because I feel like when you go through, you just only you only reflect on the new moon, and then from there for the full moon, and in between, which is the waxing and the waning moon, there might be something that happens in between those, those two moons, in between the new moon and the full moon, which is those stages of the waxing and the waning. So I feel like, Libra, you need to concentrate on those stages as well, because those are very important, because that's transition. That's when we transition from the maiden into the mother, which is the waxing. And then from the mother into the crone is the waning. And that's when we transition as well, where we transition the energies from that, from whatever that represents for you, Libra. But I feel like working with this energy and learning more about each phase will help you with this week's work, especially because we got the new moon coming in. And then you'll have to understand how that new moon is going to affect your work, especially for manifestation purposes, right afterwards, right after the new moon it has gone, and before the new moon begins, of course. Okay, so let's see, we're gonna do Leo next. Thank you, Mara. So this is for Zodiac, Leo energy. Let me just go ahead and okay, shuffle it again for Leo. Okay, so soul retrieval for Leo. So you're going to be doing some work with your aspects, okay? So things that have been hidden from you, and they're coming to light, Leo. I feel like there has been a lot of things that you haven't revisited until now. And it feels like it's a proper time to revisit them because of the energy of Scorpio, giving you that extra boost of confidence to see in the darkness, right? And the darkness doesn't have to be something negative. It just means that it's something that you might have suppressed because you didn't want to deal with it at that time. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you reflect on it later on, as long as you acknowledge that you weren't ready to deal with that back then, right? And now you are. And so I feel like that's what is happening, Leo. So soul retrieval is just that. It's retrieving those aspects of your soul, or those aspects of who you are or who you used to be, and accepting them, right? Learning and acceptance is the key here. Learning that you used to be that way and you have grown from that experience, And now you take that experience as wisdom, where you are no longer that way, and you have evolved tremendously from those previous encounters or those previous memories. Okay, and so that's what it is all about for you for this week. Okay, Leo. So let's see who wants to go next. So we just covered Scorpio, Libra, and Leo. Let's see who wants to go next. Shuffle a little bit. Okay. Okay, we're going to do Aries next. Let's see, Aries. Collective Aries. The owl. Okay, so owl medicine. Okay. So there's different interpretations out there of owl medicine, but I would always recommend to you to connect yourself energetically to the actual creature, okay? Or to ask it to come in through meditation practice and ask them to relay a message for you, okay? I always recommend that because, again, different cultures have different perceptions of the owl, such as in Native American lore, the owl always brings in messages from the spirit world, or also brings in messages that you're going there, right? Like your time is up, pretty much, like depending on the color, of course. There's a lot of people who don't like owls because, oh my God, that means somebody died or somebody's about to die, things like that, right? And then in European cultures, the owl represents wisdom, right? It represents wisdom and the nocturnal, as well as seeing in the darkness. So seeing the wisdom in the fog, or seeing the wisdom in the darkness, seeing what you can see that hasn't been revealed to you, prior to this, right? And then, of course, combine everything together. It could just be that. It could just be things that were hidden are no longer hidden from you. And the information that you're gaining from this is definitely divine time, as well as divine wisdom coming in from that side of things. So for you, Aries, that's what I feel, that you're going to learn some things this week about questions that you had in the past. Okay, you probably prayed on it, you probably asked creator for a message, and so this is pretty much your sign that it's coming in. Okay, and then do what you can with that information, whatever that is. Make sure you work with the information and take action on it. Okay, so that's what I have for Aries. So next one I saw is Aquarius, so we'll do Aquarius next. Okay, let's see. Aquarius is next. Ooh, flow. All right, Aquarius. Flow. All right, so it's kind of like allowing yourself to flow, to go with the flow, like the river. Okay, the river is constantly flowing, constantly changing direction. The river paves its path, it's not paved for it. Okay, I also feel like, Aquarius, this is a very good interpretation for you in the way that you perceive yourself in this world, where you're a path paver, where you take the direction that you want, not necessarily because society tells you. And then, of course, you look at certain things in a more abstract, as well as more universal vision, instead of being, constructing or interpreting things within a box. Okay, so that being said, there might be situations that you might be facing this week that might need you to reflect on them in a constructive way, or in a very unique interpretation, such as don't just interpret it because it's being presented to you in this manner. More or less look at the bigger picture that is given to you with these clues, right? So how does this affect you in the future, for example? Like, how is this going to play a role in my future work or endeavors or wants and needs and whatever I'm trying to build? How is this connection or this interaction going to affect me in that manner, right? And expand in an expansive way. That's what we are trying to do. So instead of looking at it as this is just wrong, or this needs to be fixed, or this needs to be broken down and reevaluated and all this stuff, it's more or less allowing yourself to think things through and not be such a hammer when it comes to these interactions, because Aquarius, as you tend to hammer at things right off the bat. As soon as it's presented to you, you tend to just be like, okay, I gotta fix it, okay, now I gotta fix this, things like that. But now they're asking you to just flow with it, just gather the information and address it when it's proper, okay? Meaning, like, if you are getting upset over something, don't address it when you're upset, okay? Be more tactful about it, so be smarter about it, okay? Have a plan. All right, so that's what I have for you, Aquarius. All right, so next one would be Virgo. Let's see, Virgo. Virgo. Ooh, water. So working with water energy, what does that mean for you? I feel emotional. Okay, so emotional stages, emotions itself. This is about addressing the underlying emotions when it comes to reactions that you may have had with a person, like how you felt when they said something, but you never addressed it. So this is about addressing it within yourself, but also with them. It's important because sometimes you do not say things when you're clearly wanting to. So for Virgo, this is kind of like a need for you to just let the emotions come out, okay? Instead of suppressing them because you don't truly trust how they're gonna come out, okay? So a good thing about Scorpio season is that it affords you the opportunity to get in tune in that manner and to not be so reserved when it comes to these things, where if somebody makes you angry, then just tell them, hey, I don't feel that's appropriate, and I am getting mad right now. I'm getting angry because of what you said. Just express it in that manner, okay? Because sometimes they'll say something, you're just like, like trying to be reasonable and trying to understand their point of view. It's no longer gonna work for you, Virgo. It's more about you not letting them in so many ways keep manipulating you, okay, and your emotions. And you shouldn't feel guilty about being angry at them or being upset with people that tend to do this often to you. It is not about feeling guilt. It is about expression, and it is about empowerment as well. So that's what I feel that's going to happen for you this week, is so you can have the opportunity to feel what you're feeling and express it. Okay, no more suppression. Okay, so let's see who's next. Okay, we're gonna do Pisces next. Let's see. Pisces. Let's see what we get for Pisces. little fishies. Okay, so we got moon cycles for Pisces. This one's about working with intuition for you in particular, about the differences between your vision and others. Understanding that there's going to be differences, understanding that not everyone's going to see things the way that you do, and you're not going to be able to see things the way they do either. And there's nothing wrong with that. You might have people who confront you about your visions, maybe try to tell you that they're wrong, or they're not correct, or they're somehow misinterpreted. So let me tell you something, Pisces. Like I stated before, not everyone's going to agree, not everyone's going to see it the way that you do. For example, when you have an experience, this is a key thing that happens a lot in trauma, right? Traumatic experiences. Say, for example, me and my sister, we were both in the same accident, I thought it wasn't a big deal. I was just like, I'm perfectly fine. She wasn't. And so it was more of an emotional thing for her that was happening. And for me, I was just more like, okay, I survived, cool. I was more like, okay, I got bumped in the head, but that's the only thing that hurt. Her, she didn't get hurt or anything, but it was more emotional. So in her interpretation of an accident, it was traumatic for her, right? And for me, an accident, I was just like, whew, I fucking survived. Right? Mine was like, whew, thank God. I'm fucking, like that. So that's how you can see it, Pisces, where even if you're in the same reality or in the same practice as someone, working with the same deity, with the same spirit, with the same whatever, your relationship to that particular deity, spirit, whatever, is going to be very different from the relationship that they have with someone else. Why? Because we are made differently. We are made to interpret things differently because our soul is unique in that manner, where certain beliefs, certain interpretations, certain experiences are meant for us. Okay, not necessarily for everyone, because not everyone is going to have the same belief or interpretation. Okay, and so that being said, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's just about improvement of the messages that we receive, and improvement and evolution of how we see the spirit world. There might be some perceptions that may be askewed based on how we were raised, or based on our belief systems about the spirit world, or about that particular deity, or about this or that, right? And there might be skewed based on fear. So if there's things that are happening where you are arguing with someone regarding these things, in particular with the spirit world, where someone tells you you're wrong because that is so and so, and this deity is evil, and that stuff said, that's how they interpret it, because that's their filter. That's how they were raised to believe in these things. You don't have to argue with them. You don't even have to explain yourself or connection, because obviously they're not ready to hear it. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, I understand this is where you're coming from, but I don't need to even explain myself. Okay, so they're not ready. They're not ready, and there's nothing wrong with that. Eventually, in the process of time, in the process of experience, when they actually really do start to do work in the process of evolution of the connection to the spirit world, then they might come back to you and say, you know what, I'm sorry for the way I acted towards your interpretation of this deity, and now I understand why you see it that way. Okay, so that's all that it takes. Okay, and so that being said, intuition is, it's actually very much a very self-driven thing. Okay, um, yes, we might be able to interpret things for people here and there because we're reading their beliefs, we're reading their energy. Okay, but we're also filtering it through our own. Okay, and so that being said, it is very individual. So just remember that. Okay, Pisces, I know you perceive it as it being all one, or everyone should be all one, but not everyone perceives that either. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, so that's what I have for you, Pisces. Exactly, Shannon. Exactly. They have to experience it for themselves. Yep, you are so right. Okay, so we're going to do Capricorn next. Capricorn for this week. Let's see what we got for you, Capricorn. Ooh, that one just fell out of my lap. Okay, the spiral. So the spiral represents energy coming in and energy exiting. Okay, it also represents in so many ways how we go through different stages and transitions in life, but it also represents energy and how it works. Okay, that it's continuously flowing, and then the world itself, it's in a spiral. It's in the interpretation of how things change, and they're ever changing, and they come from one point, and from that point they stem outwards, and they return back to the point. Okay, that being said, a lot of us perceive time, for example, as linear because that's how we were raised. But in truth and reality, time is not an actual thing. It's more of an interpretation of how we count the seconds, the minutes of our experiences of our walking through this physical realm. But in the spirit, things change rapidly and drastically because it's energy and it's supposed to be that way. That being said, the whole spiral of energy that you might be faced with recognizing, Capricorn, is the drastic changes that are coming in for you, where your mind itself has evolved into a different allowance of energy to be used for your growth. Okay, we also see the differences in the way that you travel through this world now, where it's not just based on one or two ideologies. It's based on the understanding that it's okay to change with the energies, not necessarily just having to walk one straight path, but also seeing how through the wormhole energy you're able to get to one location onto a next one without even walking straight forward. Okay, so with that being said, Capricorn, I feel like there's going to be a lot of changes that come in with the change of your own mindset regarding your own life and your connections to other people, to include anything that you believe is connecting you to the spirit world. Okay, so that being said, allow this spiral to take over, as that spiral is already and has always been within you. We think about energy moving through the body, through the chakra system. The chakra system turns as a spiral would, as well as a vortex energy, right? Absorbing energy into itself, and then releasing it after it has used it, or after it has taken from what it needs from that energy. So evolution. Okay, and so that being said, it's time for you to see this within your life as well. Okay, Capricorn? All right. So next one, we're going to do Taurus. Let's see, Taurus. See, Taurus, Taurus. Soul retrieval. So you got it similar to, I think, was it Leo? All right, so here we go. Soul retrieval. So that being said, I think for you, it's more about working with the inner child, Taurus. It's about taking the necessary breaks that you need. We're heading towards the end of the year. And so Taurus says you might be panicking where you're like, oh my God, what have I done this year? Like, what accomplishments have I made? What goals have I finally accomplished? Things like that, where you're like going kind of in circles about like judging yourself, of course, or saying, oh, I should have done this or that, or should have done this better, and things like that. Reviewing it, of course. There's nothing wrong with review, but don't you know, harm yourself from over judging, right? So with the soul retrieval, I feel like the connection will be inner child work, connecting to the things that you used to love as a child. If you like to play certain games, reconnect with that. If you like to do certain activities, do that as well. If you like certain foods, taste those again. It's kind of like nostalgia coming back in, but it's helpful at this time because it'll help you balance out the mindset of having to finish everything before the winter hits, right? Or having to finish everything for the year's end. It'll help you relax and enjoy yourself better with your family members, especially the holidays are coming in. It'll help you not be stressed out during the holiday season, okay? So that's what I feel the soul retrieval will lead you to understanding the balance that is necessary for your survival, pretty much, right? Like, not too much work, but also bring in some play, okay? So that's what I have for you, Taurus. Okay. So let's see who's next. So we covered pretty much almost all of the, we covered all of the fixed signs. For the cardinals, we were just missing Cancer, and then for the mutables, we're just missing Sagittarius and Gemini. So whomever wants to pick next, let me know which ones you guys want. So Cancer, Sagittarius, and Gemini. All right, so Maggie says Sag. Let's see, Saggies. Okay. The rattle. All right. The rattle. So the rattle represents pretty much all the elements. When I work with rattles, I use it to there's an air element to it. There's an earth element to it. There's also a fire element to it. And there is definitely a water element to it because it sounds like running water, right? So working with rattles, it's about bringing those four elements together. It's about introducing the self to the connection of the spirit realm, meaning like inducing in so many ways preparation of the conscious mind to release the ego in order for the flow of the spirit self to come in order for the connection to the ancestors to come in, to be allowed in, removal of the conscious self so that interpretation of those connections can be, for the highest good of the receiver. And so it is a preparation of ceremony, okay? It is a song to the ancestors, to the deities, to the higher realms, to Creator. So that being said, Sagittarius, I feel this is something that needs to be had with yourself, where you need to start something that is a deeper connection to you, to your ancestors, to Creator, to the spirit realm. Okay, and through the rattle, you can do that, where you prepare the mind for that connection, where you prepare the mind for ceremony, and you actually have a consistent ritual daily for this. Okay, and that's the whole point of the spirit practice, is to be consistent with it. And it doesn't have to be this grand ceremony, Sagittarius. It doesn't have to be this whole like, I gotta do all this, to be connected to that realm. No, it's a more or less the subtle things that happen to you, the little messages that you might think, oh, that's just regular old daily things, right? Is about reflecting that those are more than just regular old daily things. Those are messages from spirit, okay? And also understanding that with rituals, with ceremony, everything needs to be, you need to walk in that, right? You need to be intentional with the work that you're doing, with the steps that you're taking. You have to think about each action as being a part of that intention, a part of that divine plan. So when you have situations that come up, Sagittarius, with others, within interactions, for example, you have to be intentional with those interactions, especially if they're coming in a way that you might feel your reaction might be kind of fiery from it, okay? So being mindful is the key for those interactions, okay? All right, so that's what I have for Sagittarius. Okay, so next one's going to be Cancer. Okay, let's see, Cancer. Let's see. Cancer. Ooh, middle world. Middle world. We're in the middle world. Okay, Cancer. So we have above us, or what a lot of people interpreted like above us is the spirit world, which is actually here, and then merged into the middle world, which is where we're at, and then the underworld, right? So what you're being asked to do is to connect to the middle world, to connect here, physical realm, Cancer. Maybe going out in nature will be beneficial for you. Grounding is needed. I keep hearing that. Ground. There might be energies that are coming into play for you, Cancer, that might be a little bit overwhelming or confusing. You might feel like your reactions to these things might be misinterpreted by others, by your own family, or you might be misinterpreting it somehow. Okay, so best thing for you to do is stay reflecting into this world. Go outside and ground if you can. Work with elements that are grounding, such as working with trees, working with the soil. Gardening will be something. Harvesting, like picking, fruit if you have them, uh, herbs, things like that. Making food that is grounding, that is good for the soul, to help you really reflect deeper into these things that you're interpreting, so that you don't feel like you're being triggered or you're lost in the interpretation. I also feel like being here and tending to your own needs is important. but also seeing how you are able to be present with your loved ones as well. It might be that for some time you were really working with the spirit realm for like a high amount of time, and then you've gotten to the point where it's become a little bit more tricky, because maybe you're working with people and maybe you're taking on their stuff too, Cancer. So I think that's where the confusion comes in, intermingling energies. So it's could be a for this week, it'll be a good time for you to take a break from that. Good time for you to just take care of you here in the physical. And I also feel like the physical needs that you have, such as possibly taking care of your body, um, giving yourself some me time, is important. Okay. So if you have aches and pains, take care of those. Um, if you have, something going on with your physical body, take care of it. Okay. So that's what I have for you, Cancer. Okay. So next one we're gonna do is, and this is the final one, is Gemini. I always do Gemini last. Have you guys noticed? It's like you guys just still like, oh, I just want to go through all this, except for Gemini. Generally could just be the end. Just kidding. Two of us in Gemini. It just happens that way for some reason. I'm just gonna say that. Saving the best for last. Okay, there. All right, let's see Gemini. Let's see what we got for you for this week. Ooh, the lower world. So we had the middle world for Cancer, but now we're asking Gemini to go into the lower world. Okay, so this is, like I said, the middle world represents the physical world. The lower world represents like the underworld or the shadow world, or the world where there are things that are hidden, the subconscious or the actual unconscious mind. Let's see, it's the unconscious mind, yeah. So this is where things are not being understood fully, Gemini, where maybe there is an experience that you have yet to understand fully. Maybe it's because you were just, okay, I'm over it, I'm moving on to the next, right? Maybe that's what it is. It's like a need to reflect and understand this experience, because guess what? If we don't reflect or understand or gain wisdom from an experience and interaction, it's going to play out again. And then again and again and again, until we decide, okay, we're going to know why we keep getting these things come up again and again and again and again. So that being said, traveling into your own lower world, into your own unconscious mind, will be beneficial for this week. What are you doing unconsciously? What are you not really focusing correctly on, right? What are you doing that you're just like, oh well, that's just me. You take it or leave it type of attitude. Where's that coming from, right? Like, how do you're presenting yourself like this to someone or something? Why? But why are you doing that? Okay, we gotta understand. All right. So that being said, that'll be something to explore for this week, Gemini, to explore a deeper understanding of why we think that way, or why we don't really think and we just say things. Okay. And there's always going to be some type of emotion behind it. Even if you think, oh, I don't think so. It's just how it is. It is how it is, or it is what it is. No, there's more to it. Okay, so that's what I have for you, Gemini. All right, so that's all I have, you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here, for watching, and for letting me know which zodiac signs I should pull a card for. And again, happy Dia de los Muertos to everyone. Hopefully you guys are able to connect to your loved ones and to your ancestors this week. Okay, love you guys so much, And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.